The views and opinions expressed on this program are those of the producers and the individuals appearing on this program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of the staff of the Sun Prairie Media Center, its members or underwriters, the board members of the Media Center Commission, Charter Communications, TDS Telecom, or the staff and elected officials of the City of Sun Prairie.
Welcome to Moments of Strength. I'm your host, Mary Kaufman. In this show, we dive deep into the lives of mothers' unique journeys of parenting and personal growth.
On this program
From juggling family dynamics to personal passions and career ambitions, we'll talk about challenges, triumphs, and pivotal moments that shape their lives, emphasizing the resilience and strength that comes with motherhood. Today's guest is Nicole. Nicole and I have been friends for a handful of years now. And I thought you would be a great guest for the first show because I have had the privilege of just witnessing how you balance your role as a mother with your role as a working mother outside of the home as well. And so I admire that and have seen how you manage that and actually have learned a few things. So I thought you would be somebody who would be a good guest.
Thank you for having me.
Also, you were brave enough to come on, and I appreciate you kicking this show off with me. So
no problem.
So thank you.
Yep.
So we have about an hour, and I thought we would start with just talking about where you are currently in life. Just as a mother with everything you have going on, maybe you can tell us a little bit about who you are and how many kids you have and how you manage those things. Then I thought we could take some time to talk about your experience with motherhood. So, whether that's from when you were a child or just mothers you have observed and things you have learned that way, if you're comfortable with that. And then before we wrap up, I wanted to talk about things you might think you have to offer that are of value to mothers who are struggling or trying to find their way. I know you have some experience with advocating and things like that. And so I think that is valuable for anybody watching the show, really. But as mothers, we often feel alone and we don't know where to start with some things, and you have experience with that. So tell us a little bit about, introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about who you are and where you're at in life.
All right. Nicole, I have been with my husband for 15 years. We have 3 kids, a daughter who is 13, a son who's 11, and a son who's 5. I work full-time. I'm a senior manager, so I lead leaders who lead people. I've been in leadership a long time. I like leadership. I like people. I like impacting things and getting out of my own way to let the people do what they need to. So I try to transfer a lot of that to being a mom as well. And the current chapter of our lives is organized chaos.
For sure.
So my husband works full-time. I work full-time. Our daughter's involved in a lot of sports. Our second son is involved in a lot of sports, and he is neurodiverse. He has ADHD and dyslexia, so I am so sorry. So he gets extra just help to be who he is, and he's amazing. And then our littlest guy is medically complex as well. He has something called Pierre-Robin. So he's had multiple surgeries. He has a ball of joy, and he has multiple therapies a week. So, and he plays some sports too, Miracle League and things. So between my husband and I and our small village around us, we just are trying to get everyone to where they need to be and trying to make good humans along the way and have a little fun. So,
and I can say because I know you and because I've been around your family for the last handful of years, when you say you and your husband work full-time, that is true, but you both have jobs that are very demanding, and I think the hours, it's not just full time, you know, we don't go 40 hours a week, Monday through Friday. You both have jobs that pull at you at different times of the day, and that also are contingent on things like what's happening with the weather. You know, that increases your workload, and it's immediate, and you have to sort of shift with that. At the same time, the needs of your kids don't change, their appointment times don't change, and things like that. And so I think, you know, just being a witness to your life currently, this is a tumultuous, organized chaos time of life. And I think, you know, first of all, thank you for sharing those details. How do you do that? So you call it organized chaos, but for somebody out there who may be in a similar situation or can see themselves doing that at some time, how do you manage that? How do you do that?
I'm very type A, and thankfully my husband handles that well. It comes down to organization, which is it's not easy for people. It's not easy for me, but it also fills me up when we're organized, because it decreases the stress in the house.
For sure.
So we have a calendar. It used to be paper. Mother's Day present, I got a digital calendar, best thing ever.
So nice.
Everybody has their color. So even our 5-year-old, he has speech impairment, so it's difficult to understand him sometimes. He knows his color is yellow on the calendar.
Okay.
So when he's looking at things at night, he's like, "Mom, what do I have?" And so same thing with our son and our daughter. Everybody has their colors, and it's right in the center place of the kitchen, so everyone sees it. Now, I did not grow up with that. I grew up with a single mom, bartending jobs, cleaning jobs. We moved a lot. Very bumpy childhood, if you will.
Okay.
So kind of figured things out myself. Didn't really have an example of a mother. I've had a couple strong women in my life, thankfully, who have been great. My mother-in-law is an amazing woman who's given me good example. But I've been kind of writing my own book with motherhood. And so yes, how we do it is communication. For a long time, I tried to do too much myself, because I didn't want to bother my husband with it, because he does have a job that pulls him away at nights and on the weekends. But finally, in the last few years, as my career continues to grow, thankfully, and opportunities arise, I've just been leaning on him more, and we're really trying to divide, not 50-50, but to our strengths. I'm a morning person, he's not.
Okay.
Nighttime, I get tired, he doesn't. So he starts to do lunches at night while I'm starting to work on other things. In the morning, I let him sleep a little longer. I get breakfasts ready. So there's a flow, and on a perfect day, it flows. Then there's curveballs, and we just try to keep perspective. So that's kind of how we do it. It's not easy. I have a lot of people that always are like, "I have half of what you have, and I'm overwhelmed." And I'm like, we can't compare each other to each other. That's like the first thing moms need to stop, because everybody's struggling with something, and everybody's winning at something. So we just need grace.
And I think you're right. You know, something I think we forget is that everybody's having their own individual experience.
Yes.
So you and I are both moms, but we have had, you know, no similar experiences growing up. That it was very different. But here we are as friends, and that's great. I was prompted to ask, when you said, you know, your examples of motherhood and how you have sort of forged that path. Did you always want to be a mom? Did you project this out, that this is how you wanted, you know, this stage of your life to be married with kids, or was that something that just was in the timeline of things that happens to women, or, you know? Talk a little bit about that.
So I had a little brother. Unfortunately, he passed away when he's 19 in a car accident, but I really helped raise him. So my mom struggled with mental health, jobs. She was married a few times, so just very inconsistent growing up. So I started to get that motherly skill set because of my little brother. And at times my mother, as I got older, I was having to help her with things. So it was I never remember going, I don't want kids at all. But I also remember thinking, I don't want them too soon, because everybody in my family had children at a young age, usually not planned. And then it was just like figuring it out as you go. I didn't want that. So I was the first person in my family to graduate from college.
Congratulations.
Thank you. But again, something I had to figure out. Nobody told me or could show me something with college. So I made mistakes and I wasted money. I failed a class, all those things.
Sure.
But then I got a job, and it still hadn't clicked that I wanted to be a mom. And I never had really serious relationships, like marital or otherwise. But then I met my husband.
Okay.
And we always joke that he was raised on this side of the train tracks, I was raised on this side, and we met in the middle.
Okay.
And so all of a sudden I was like, oh, these families exist. They're a real thing. It's not an after-school special. That's pretty cool. And so as I got to know him and watch him with kids, because he's in education, all of a sudden I was like, okay, I can kind of see this. Like, this would be cool. We got married, and so for me, I hadn't seen anyone do anything in the typical order.
Okay. Yes.
And so I was writing that story that I got married. I got my education, I got a job, I met my husband, we got married, we bought a house, and we were fortunate enough to be able to plan to get pregnant, and we got pregnant. So as that was all happening, I think it was building, because I wanted to put something into the world from him and I, and I wanted that to be a child. So I think it was organic. It was never, I am a type A. I thought, big thing I thought I wanted was my master's by 30.
Okay.
That was a goal. We had our first baby when we were like 26 or so. And all of a sudden it was like, I tried when she was younger. I did 2 semesters. And all of a sudden it was like checking a box. And I was like, I don't want my master's to be checking a box.
Right.
So I haven't gotten my master's. But in the last 12 years, I've done a heck of a lot more. And more value than, and education is wonderful. My husband has his master's. We always joke we did his together because
it is a joint effort.
Yes.
For sure.
And thankfully, I was 9 months pregnant when he got his degree. So we didn't have kids until he was done. So it was perfect.
That was good timing.
But
That's type A.
Yeah, that very type A. So so I think that to answer your question, it just naturally happened. Never knew I wanted to until I met him.
Well, so much of life too is, just the coincidence. Maybe you have that drive somewhere, but there's no outlet for it. You don't see how that could possibly happen, and then suddenly, here's this person who literally took you on that path in order of how that goes. And you're right, his family is great. I've met them and spent time with them and love them too. And so it's turned out so well. Especially as somebody outside to watch how that's going. And again, just circling back to the chaos that is right now, with the ages of your kids and everything you're involved in, and your husband, and just collectively the activities and supports and things that you're involved in. It's very easy, I think, to get caught up in that and feel overwhelmed, and it's hard to see the light at the end, especially when you're caught up in that every day. We have to get everything done by these times, and so many demands and things come up with your job that need attention immediately. But then, yesterday your son stays home sick, and you have to navigate that. And I think it's very easy to become overwhelmed and think, I can't do this, or how can I do this? So how do you do that is the question. So in those moments, we already know you're going to have a busy day, and then your youngest is going to be homesick. What is that thing? Because we talk about resilience a lot on the show, and I'm focused on resilience, mental toughness, and those things in the work that I do. What is that thing that you rely on to do that? And I'm putting you on the spot.
No, that's fine. But, no, I would say I was very stubborn for many years.
Okay.
And I wanted to fix it all, do it all, because that's how I did it when I was a kid. I figured it out. So really figuring out that I do have a partner, thankfully. And that's the one thing, my perspective is dual, because I have a partner, but I watched how hard it is when you don't have a partner.
Right.
So for me, I really try to stay objective.
Okay.
So I had rough patches as a child. Rough patches now, they're still rough and they're real, but perspective.
Right. It's
So
relative to what you kind of already experienced.
So that's one thing. I just try to take a step back. I was just sharing with you earlier, I got something came up with health insurance, which is something we navigate a ton because of our youngest and our other son. A curveball came up 2 days ago, and I was frustrated, I was mad. I always joke because I'm Italian, Irish, and German, I get all fired up. But I've learned I got to give it 24 hours. I had a lot of knee-jerk reactions, so I give things 24 hours. Or in these moments where the schedule is blowing up or our youngest is home, I just try to think, okay, what can I move? Can I move anything? My employer and my husband's employer have been wonderful with flexibility. Not everybody has that.
No, that's very fortunate.
Yes, and you know, if you have a hourly job, you usually don't have flexibility.
Right.
So, but we do, and I just start to move things around. And COVID, the pandemic, was a double-edged sword, in my opinion. Horrible, the number of lives we lost. But I think it made it more normal and broke the taboo of being a working mom.
Sure.
You know, because sometimes my kids pop up on the back of a video meeting and people find it funny. I don't have to hide it, and I don't.
Right.
I'm very upfront with people that most of the time my day ends at 4, and then I'm with my kids. And then when I put them to bed, I might jump back online. But I've really had to be not serious, but intentional with letting people know I can do this all.
Right.
But I've got to have boundaries. And so that's one thing. Asking for help. There was, you know, there's literally not enough drivers sometimes for our kids and their things.
For sure.
So we lean on people when we need to.
I remember that was kind of hard for you.
It was very hard. Very
You
hard.
did not want to ask. And that is a great example to bring that up because you and I are close. Of course, if you needed something, I would want you to ask me. I wouldn't even think twice. And yet, and I do this to you too, I still will say, hey, you know, I'm sorry. Like, and I think some of that is, I understand what it feels like to be under that kind of pressure, so I don't want to add to that. But what I think we're missing too as moms is there's empathy there, there's understanding there.
Yes.
And we know how to maybe manage our schedule to be able to accommodate yet another thing, but we don't want to impose upon somebody else. And I think we could do more of that as moms. Not only just asking, but offering or leaning on each other. Clearly, we're all doing this together.
Yeah.
We're raising the world. So that would work out better if we did that together. And so just learning that even with like your very closest friends
Yes.
to be okay saying that. But I remember, you know, you asking like, I know you're available, or I know you're not busy, or would it be okay? And I, of course, was like, yes, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's that angst. That
It
you
is.
have.
Yeah, you don't want to put more on someone else when you know. And for me, it's a pride thing.
Right.
It's some of it.
Can do it all.
Yes. Like I can't admit, but something I've started to be very humbled by as well is my daughter. She's at an age where she's becoming a young adult.
Right.
And I don't want her to see a mom who says yes to everything or says, or doesn't know how to say no, or gets so stressed out that the quality of our interactions is just poor because I'm trying to stretch myself across the path.
Right.
You know, same thing with work. I'm connected with my phone with work a lot. But if she says something to me and is like, Mom, can you put your phone down? Immediately I'm like, that's the check I needed.
Right.
Thank you. Yep, you're right. Because I don't want her to see the main female figure in her life. I don't want her to see that I can't set boundaries.
Right.
I don't want her to see that I can't ask for help, or that I think I have to be perfect, whether it's my weight, my makeup, you know, whatever. So I think she is becoming one of my biggest teachers because I want to make sure she has something to go off of,
Right.
but I still want her to have her own story. So it's a balance.
Well, and kids, I mean, that's the mirror right there.
Oh, yeah.
They will show you exactly who you are.
Yep.
And I think in that instance too, that's a great example of just how you've fostered an environment where your daughter, who is 13,
Yep.
and a lot comes with being that age, but where she feels comfortable enough to sort of give you that check, as you said, but she is not afraid to do that.
Yep.
She doesn't feel like, you know, you're going to come off unglued or something like that just because she called you out on that. She understands, she doesn't do that all the time,
Yeah.
so she understands when she should do that so that you'll pay attention. And all of that comes from, you know, the scene that you set in your home, making that comfortable for your kids. And I will say, in your home, it's, and of course I won't be able to do this with all guests, but that is a real environment. Yes. And even, you know, coming in there, you know, as a new friend many years ago, it's very candid, transparent. Yep. Feelings are what they are. Yep. They're not judged humorously sometimes, I would say. But they're not, like, you don't feel bad because you felt something. Yep. It's just so loving there. I think, you know, you've really created a scene. I know everybody in your family loves sports. Yes. And so, so there really is this collaborative, loving environment that is a team, and that's what you call it. And, you know, I've felt privileged to be part of that. But so much of that, what you're talking about, you know, being an example for your kids and having them show you how you can be better, and you being conscious of how to be better for them and how to help them be better, and do your job and, you know, run the house. And, you know, we haven't even talked about just keeping up on, like, the bills or, you know, all of those things you have to fit into your day. And you did mention, you know, your examples when you were small and what happens to us when we're small, what's imposed upon us and how we're raised, and this ties into what you were saying, certainly has a heavy impact on who we are as we get older and how we approach things. And coming from, you know, a childhood where you had to grow up quickly in some senses, you know, if you were taking care of your brother, you know, and navigating things like school on your own. And being able to take that, you can go a lot of different directions when you're in a scene like that. Actually, an existence like that, because it's your whole childhood. So you have to make some conscious choices to go a different way. Do you still, even, you know, now you have this wonderful family, and do you find yourself having to make conscious choices still, or do you feel like by now you've sort of created this existence where you don't have to, you know, you're not really referencing the stuff from when you were maybe young or those challenges anymore? Do you feel like you've overcome those and grown into somebody else? Or
so I will say I thought I did. And the reason I say that is in our house, mental health is not a taboo. Therapy is not a taboo. So we treat a mental health therapist, just like a doctor checkup. So everybody, all the kids have someone they can talk to. Titus, he has everybody to talk to, so not so much him.
And everyone will listen to him.
Everybody will listen to him. So, but so we try to normalize mental health and taking care of it. So I've had therapy, and, you know, you get to a point where you're like, I got it. My life's in check, I'm winning. And then the universe says, oh, you're cute. This is, so that's kind of where I'm at now. So I still have to check myself and almost realize I'm having a feeling. It's okay to have that feeling, and just give myself a second to process, because I am so busy and I do want to be there for everyone. But I would say I still reference that. The other thing is our little guy has had quite a journey. 9 surgeries, multiple therapies, 51-day inpatient stay, and that, I think, was a pivotal moment for our family, because I was in the hospital staying with him. Eric was with the big kids. We were kind of trying to balance it all. And so I almost think sometimes I go back to that and not to my childhood, because that was something my kids had to, I don't want to say survive, but kind of survive. And so I think survive, survive and understand. And they are 2 of the best siblings to a kiddo who has extra needs. And thankfully, Eric and I have been conscious of trying to bring them along, because there's been some fun opportunities that we've been given, because we really support the American Family Children's Hospital. We support the Miracle League. And so whenever we get the privilege of sharing our story on behalf of them, we bring our other kids with us. So we're all experiencing it together. And giving it realness and okay to talk about how you felt during that time. Or whenever he has surgeries from there on. I mean, our kids get nervous. He might not come home like he did the last time because he was at the hospital for so long. So I think I reference that more than I reference my childhood now because it's a moment that we all shared, the five of us. So
it's cohesive. And the other kids really are the story too, you know. And I think, so, you know, that's hard for parents too, especially if you have, you know, one child that needs extra in a moment or a series of weeks or whatever. That balance and again, recognizing that like these other kids are part of the story, you know, you may choose not to share everything with them or to loop them in where it's appropriate or, but that, I think, cohesiveness and your choice to include them, they are so great with, actually, they're all great with each other.
Yes.
And, you know, Titus thinks he's, you know, their same age, basically. And he's come so far, but so much of his development has been reliant on what he sees them do and their interactions with him. And, you know, they roughhouse with him, but they also protect him. And, that's very fun to see. And that's part of who you are as a parent, and Eric too. So,
and it anchors the kids, I think, to realize that some things are hard for people. You know,
for sure.
Eating. They learned that eating isn't easy for everyone. You know, Titus had a G tube, so it's things as we're raising the kids. It's like, remember what you have.
Right.
Gratitude. Don't think things for granted. So that's kind of right now. Those are good reminders.
And I think too, don't go out and expect everyone can do the same thing, wants to do the same thing, you know, has interest or resources or anything. Everybody is having their own experience, and I think having grace for that and supporting that when you can, and then having empathy, you know, for things that aren't going quite right. They're learning all of that. I know, you know, I've learned a lot of that just being friends with your family too, and I know my kids have also learned that. So, that's been great. It's just been great to be part of that. One other thing I wanted to talk about, so we talked about work and we talked about family. What about like you as an individual? so this is, you know, in what I do is try to help people see how to continue their own personal growth and development. Also have a job, also, you know, raise your family. The potential for what we can do as humans is so great. But I know that everybody doesn't understand how to do that. Everybody doesn't have a desire to do that. But if somebody did, first of all, are there things you're doing just for you?
Okay.
And how do you fit those in, or how do you prioritize that?
So I sucked at that for a long time.
Yes.
I think I still do to a degree. One thing is my marriage.
Okay.
So that's a big piece of me, is I'm a wife and I'm a partner, and so something my husband and I try to do now that our daughter can actually safely babysit. We try to grab dinner once a week if we can, and she makes money, everybody's happy, it's all good. So we try to do that. The other thing, I have some just like, I'm getting old issues, and so I'm trying alternative medicine. So I'm actually seeing a acupuncturist.
Okay.
And that's like an hour a week. And that is a big deal for me to be taking an hour a week, because I don't do that.
And actually, an hour a week to be stuck with needles. It's like a relief as a mother.
I know. I was like, balance. But so that's great. And then also, I think the biggest thing is I worked out a lot. I was an athlete.
Sure.
All the things. Eric and I, we ran half marathons, all the wonderful things. The last couple of years, I was mentally beating myself up because I wasn't working out enough. And I was talking to, it was my therapist a long time ago, and I was like, it stresses me out when I don't work out. She's like, well, that doesn't make sense then.
Right.
And I'm like, but I should work out. She goes, do you want to? I'm like, no, then my hip hurts. She goes, why are we doing this then? I'm like, but I should be working out. Everybody works out. I'm not being healthy. She goes, but if you don't want to do it, how is it a positive? And all of a sudden I was like, oh.
Right.
So it's changing, understanding it's okay for me not to do what I did when I was 20 and find other ways to fill my cup. And that's either, I love on a Saturday morning to have my cup of coffee, get my personal computer, and organize things, catch up on emails, take care of bills, get the next week. Like, as weird as that sounds, I love doing that because for the rest of the weekend, then it's free. Same thing, like any type of chores, grocery shopping.
I would say your family's very regimented about the groceries, for sure. And the other thing I was thinking about, not to dovetail off of this, but that team concept, and the organized chaos, just tying all of that together, being in your kitchen when the groceries arrive. So, I've been there maybe a year ago or something like that, maybe staying with the youngest.
Yep.
And then the groceries arrive. Everybody helps with the groceries. It's not, hey, come and get the groceries. The car pulls up and everyone goes out, everyone gets the bags, everyone takes them in. It is a little bit like, for somebody who has control issues and just brings the groceries in and puts them away, to witness that is so great. Watching the kids, they're fun and loud and all of that, and the groceries are kind of everywhere initially. But then there's this cadence to it where everybody knows where the things go. They know what goes in a container, take it out of the bag, or if it goes in the freezer. And by the end, everybody's put everything away. Everybody participated, which teaches the value of, being organized and having food and all of that. So it is chaotic, but it is productive chaos.
Yes.
And just that regimented, like when you go grocery shopping, it's a routine. Those are so important when you're trying to stay organized and find small moments for yourself where you can just do the things like take your computer and organize the week.
Yep. Sitting on the front porch sometimes, just stopping. Like, I've really tried to be more intentional the last couple months of just stopping. Like, just because I have a free minute doesn't mean I should fill it.
Right.
Sit on the couch if it's Sunday, we're watching football, watch a game for a little bit. My middle child loves to tell me stats and who's injured and who's playing. So trying to have true moments that matter instead of checking a box. So I guess that's where I'm at right now.
Okay. How about one of the most rewarding things that you have experienced as a mother? There have been a few, but...
Yeah. I don't know. Anytime the kids have a victory, that's even the small victories. I mean, my daughter last night had a volleyball game, and I played volleyball. And of course, daughters don't listen to their mothers many times because they know it more.
Right.
But she was the setter, and I could tell they're on the other side, if she just dumped it, it would be a point.
Right.
And I was trying to get her, and then I told her, and she's like, oh. And so I showed her. And
you showed her while you were in the stands?
Yes.
Or, okay.
Yes.
Just so we get the scene
Yes,
here.
that's the scene. Very mildly, I just showed her. The next play, she got the opportunity. She did it, and nobody got it.
Perfect. That's awesome.
Then the team went wild. She went wild. And so then after the game, she's coming out. She was going to go with my husband somewhere. She goes, Mom, thanks for telling me to dump it. It worked. That moment.
Yeah.
I was like, you know what? If nothing else good happens this week, I gave her something. And she's going to be like, oh, my mom does know something.
Yeah. You gave her something, she acknowledged it, and she told you.
I know.
That's a huge win.
Yes. So like those,
awesome.
I think we sometimes wait for these big moments. And being a leader at work, it's the little things. Like my leaders like when I just say thank you. My leaders' staff loves when I just check in. And I give them, it's the little things.
Right.
And I think sometimes we just put so much pressure on like a title or a prize or something.
Right.
And I think I'm at a point in my life where when they succeed, and our youngest is just had a year of amazing moments. And not just like things he got to do, but like he's about to graduate from his G-tube. We've been waiting almost 6 years for that.
That's a big deal, yes.
He's getting into different type of orthotics, which is for his ankle braces. He's going to start to get to wear ankle socks. He's never been able to do that. So those victories are huge. My other son is doing twice a week tutoring at the Dyslexia Center in Madison. He's crushing it. He's doing a full day of school, an hour of tutoring, and then going to his sports and not complaining.
No.
And so just like, yeah. And then my husband, when we have moments where we laugh, when he and I both laugh at the same thing, that's a win.
Yes, definitely.
Like, that's a win because we slow down enough to remember, oh yeah, I love you and you love me and we're actually wife and husband.
Let's remind ourselves
Yeah,
of
that's
this.
right. We're
Yes.
not just mom and dad. So
Yeah.
for me, it might sound kind of hokey, but those are the things that I hold true.
Well, I think that's so important because, we're goal-driven people. We want the big thing. We want it now.
Yep.
Sometimes we want to work for it, but lots of times we just want it to be there.
Yes.
And those little things over time make big things.
Yep.
So it's important to celebrate. And I think, as moms for our children, recognizing those small things every day. We send them to school, we want them to do well, we want them to develop, we want them to demonstrate to us that that's all going well on a big scale. We want to go to conferences, we want the teachers to say, they learned it, they're doing it. But those moments when they get in the car after school, and they just tell you from their perspective how it went, plucking something out of that is a success for them and celebrating that.
Yep.
If you're always waiting for the big thing, then you miss out all those celebrations that could be happening all day, every day. So that's a great example, and appreciate you bringing that up.
No problem.
Okay, so before we go, is there anything, that we haven't covered? Listen, you and I could probably sit here
I was going to say
day.
we could do this hours.
We have sat all day. But
softball games.
yeah, we didn't even talk about sports.
We didn't even talk about sports. That's okay.
But anything that, this show really is geared at adding value to, there are 2 billion mothers in the world. Okay, so hopefully you're all watching. But with 2 billion mothers in the world, and all of us, when we become a mother, whether that's adopting or however you become a mother, having a baby, in those moments where you just feel like you are the first mother. You can study, you can read about it, you can watch shows, you can watch your mother, you can do all those things, but then when you take on the responsibility of another life, there are moments where you just feel like, you're the only one doing it.
Yep.
And the aim of the show is to make sure people know they're not,
Yes.
and hopefully give value to them in something that was said, a story that was told, skills or approaches or how to live with intention, any of that they can apply, either immediately or in the near future to what they have going on. Is there anything, not to build that up and put you on the spot to,
No
be an
pressure.
oracle here, but is there anything that you have that you maybe want to just share with them or say to the people watching?
I would say one of the biggest things I have gotten in the last 6 years with our youngest is a voice. And that is advocate, ask the questions, repeat yourself. And that is for school, if it's an IEP or a 504 plan, at the hospital or at doctor appointments. If you're not getting what you need, ask. If you don't know what you don't know, ask for help. And the biggest thing is advocating. I've always said when I retire someday, all I want to do is help parents try to navigate the medical scene because it is a mammoth. It's a beast of a thing. And there are times where I could see somebody not as fortunate as me struggling to try to help their child. So I just have people, and repeat yourself. Even at his last surgery, I told somebody about something we needed in the OR. I had to tell 6 people, and it was the 6th person who heard me and made sure it was going to get done because no one had heard me. So it's just speak up and advocate for yourself, for your kids, whatever it may be, and then grace. I always joke right now, the last couple of years, I'm living between grief and gratitude. My mom passed away last year, but I'm living between grief and gratitude with a touch of grace. So that's what I keep reminding myself is just give yourself grace, but speak up when you need it.
I appreciate that. I think that is so important. And maybe you can come back down the road and we can talk about that advocating because you have a lot of experience with that. And you can be very educated, not educated.
Oh yeah.
It does not matter. That is difficult to navigate programs and resources. And I think, you're a person who could come on and maybe just talk about where to start and things like that. So,
I'd love to.
So we should do that. So I I appreciate you coming.
Thank you for
Just
having
to touch on a couple of things. Perspective, we talked about that. So in what I do, I focus on kind of 3 things that help guide me through whether I'm writing a book or talking to somebody about where they're going, as a life coach. And those things are perspective, resilience, and pursuit. And I think we've talked about all of those things today.
Yeah.
So perspective is so important because your perspective is autobiographical. You're seeing the world from your experience.
Yep.
And if you want that to be more dynamic or you want to have a better understanding, and you gave some examples of this, you have to step outside of yourself, put yourself in the other person's shoes. Look through their eyes at the scene. You and I are sitting here having a conversation and we're having different experiences, though the set is the same. So being able to do that, resilience, as a mother, you have to push through, you have to get up, you have to do it again the next day. You have to get up in the night, you have to do all those things. You're tasked with taking care of yourself, and you've taken on the responsibility of raising someone else and being responsible for other lives. So being able to push through and bounce back is so important. And then pursuit, this is what we're here for, right?
Yep.
To live and to grow. And so if we can use those 3 things to kind of guide us, hopefully that will lead to something good. So
Yes, I agree.
So thank you so much for coming and helping kick off this first show.
Sure.
And then you're actually recorded saying you'd come back.
Yes,
So
correct. Now
that's
there's proof.
All
Okay,
right.
you got me.
Okay, thank you so much, Nicole.
Thank you.
All right.